Mr. Secretary, I want to express my severe concern with the deployment of the National Guard in Los Angeles without consultation of the state of California. There have been photographs that have shown these troops sleeping on the floor and have not been provided fuel, food, or water by DoD. How long will this deployment last, and why were we unprepared to provide them basic necessities such as food and water?
The commanders and troops on the field are very well prepared, sir. They responded incredibly rapidly to a deteriorating situation with equipment and capabilities. We have made sure from the top down, as a Secretary of Defense who's been in a unit holding riot shields outside the White House during the chaos of the summer of 2020, I know what it's like to be immediately deployed into a situation like that. There are moments where you make do as best you can temporarily, but we are ensuring they're housed, fed, water capabilities in real time from my office, because I care that much about the California Guard and the Marines and the men and women who are supporting our ICE agents on the ground.
You should check
it's
with your
true
office.
every day, and that's a disingenuous attack that misrepresents how much we care about our troops and what they're doing to defend ICE agents. I'm not going to take the fact that we don't care about the troops. Nobody cares more about the troops at the top than this Secretary and the Chairman and our
How long
department.
will the deployment last?
We stated very publicly that it's 60 days. Because we want to ensure that those rioters, looters, and thugs on the other side assaulting our police officers know that we're not going anywhere. We're here to maintain the peace on behalf of law enforcement officers in Los Angeles, which Gavin Newsom won't do.
What is the estimated cost of the deployment for the Guard and the Marines to LA, and where's this funding coming from? Will it be coming from quality of life programs that affect our service members or our families? If you want to wait till I finish.
Before I hand it to
such as updates, housing and barracks.
And here's where the hearing suddenly turns. Just when you think the Defense Secretary is going to clarify the legal basis for deploying Marines into a major American city, he does the opposite. He stretches the law so far it snaps. And what he says next leaves the entire room stunned, because it reveals exactly how the administration justifies nearly anything in the name of law and order. This is the moment the mask comes off.
Before I hand it to Bryn, the insinuation that we're pulling money from housing and barracks in order to fund this is disingenuous and incorrect.
I'm just asking.
Bryn can give you the numbers, absolutely.
So the current estimated cost is $134 million, which is largely just TDY costs, travel, housing, food, et cetera.
Where's it coming from? That's the cost, but where's it coming from?
Out of their O&M accounts.
With the most recent deployment of the Marines, Mr. Secretary, what's the justification for using the military for civilian law enforcement purposes in LA? Why are you sending war fighters to cities to interact with civilians?
Every American citizen deserves to live in a community that's safe, and ICE agents need to be able to do their job. They're being attacked for doing their job, which is deporting illegal criminals. That should happen in any city, Minneapolis or Los Angeles. And if they're attacked, that's lawless, and President Trump believes in law and order. So he has every authority, and he has done mobilizing National Guard or active duty troops under U.S. code to protect federal agents in their job, which is exactly what we're doing, and we're proud to do it. We're proud to do it.
10 U.S.C. of the U.S. Code 12406 as a legal basis that the President used cites 3 examples and circumstances for the Guard: invasion by a foreign nation, rebellion or dangerous rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, or the President is unable with regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Which authority is triggered here to justify the use?
I don't know. You just read it yourself, and people can listen themselves, but it sounds like all 3 to me. If you've got millions of illegals and you don't know where they're coming from, they're waving flags from foreign countries and assaulting police officers and law enforcement officers, that's the problem.
The laws of the United States?
No, the governor of California is unable to execute the laws of the United States.
The President, you said all
the
3
governor
apply.
of the California has failed to protect his people, along with the mayor of Los Angeles, and so President Trump has said he will protect our agents, and our Guard and Marines are proud to do it.
The law also says, Mr. Secretary, that the orders for these purposes shall be issued through governors of the states.
You and I both know that President Trump has all the authorities necessary, and thankfully he's willing to do it on behalf of the citizens of Los Angeles, on behalf of our ICE agents, and behalf of our country.
We've also pulled $1 billion for the border as well. So this just goes into the same fund, 134.
Congressman, what's the
134 million? I was asking Ms. McDonald.
Okay.
134 million goes on top of the billion that's been pulled for the
So
border.
the funding that was pulled for this year was largely in FSRM, and in this budget, we're actually looking to plus that funding back up to backfill that for our troops and for their families.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What we just witnessed is one of the clearest examples of the ongoing tension between federal authority and state rights under Trump's administration, a tension pushed to the breaking point by decisions that blur military, political, and civilian boundaries. Congressman Pete Aguilar presses the Defense Secretary with a simple, fundamental question. Why were U.S. troops deployed into Los Angeles without notifying or consulting the governor of California? And what follows is a masterclass in defensive posturing. The Secretary begins by dismissing Aguilar's concern, with a tone that implies the question itself is somehow disrespectful, rather than a central requirement of constitutional governance. Aguilar points out real, documented reports of National Guard members sleeping on floors, lacking food, water, and basic resources. This isn't exaggeration. This isn't political drama. This is what happens when deployment is rushed, uncoordinated, and done for optics instead of strategy. Rather than acknowledge the issue, the Secretary attacks the premise itself, insisting that questioning logistics amounts to questioning whether the administration cares about the troops. This is a common deflection tactic. Shift the debate from policy failures to emotional loyalty tests. Aguilar's point stands. If you deploy troops, you must be prepared to feed, supply, and support them. And if the administration cannot even explain why troops were on the floor without support, that reflects a breakdown in planning, not a lack of patriotism from those asking questions. Then comes the real heart of the exchange, the legality. Aguilar challenges the Secretary to justify the deployment using the U.S. code that governs military involvement in domestic law enforcement. The law lists 3 extreme scenarios: foreign invasion, rebellion against the United States, or inability to enforce U.S. law through normal means. These are not casual thresholds. They are intentionally high bars meant to prevent presidents from using the military as an internal police force. Yet the Secretary casually claims all 3 conditions apply, as if immigration, protest, and local unrest are equivalent to a national rebellion or foreign invasion. This is a dangerous reinterpretation of federal power. If this logic is allowed to stand, any president could deploy the military to any city at any time simply by labeling dissent as rebellion. That is not democracy. That is authoritarian escalation. Aguilar also presses on the cost, $134 million, pulled from operational and maintenance accounts at the same time the administration already diverted $1 billion in military funds to the border. And again, we see the same dynamic. Instead of explaining the trade-offs and impacts, officials insist the concern is somehow disingenuous, as though asking where taxpayer money is going is an attack on national security. But transparency is not disloyalty. It is a democratic requirement. What Aguilar exposes is a broader pattern. Trump's administration is bypassing governors, bypassing local authorities, and using military resources to enforce his political narratives. Deploying Marines into American streets is not normal, it is not routine, and it certainly is not justified by vague claims of rioters, especially when those claims are used to override state sovereignty and ignore established legal standards. The most revealing moment may be the Secretary saying it sounds like all 3 legal justifications apply, an admission that legality isn't being determined by objective criteria, but by political interpretation. It shows a willingness to stretch the law to fit whatever the president wants to do, rather than using the law to set limits on executive power. Aguilar is doing exactly what congressional oversight is supposed to do: demand explanations, demand accountability, and force the administration to articulate legal justification instead of relying on intimidation or bravado. And in this exchange, the answers simply don't stand up. Instead of clarity, we get defensiveness. Instead of legal grounding, we get improvisation. Instead of collaborative governance, we see unilateral force. This hearing is a clear reminder that democracy is not defended by ignoring overreach, it is protected by questioning it. And if the administration believes it can deploy the military into U.S. cities without consultation, without preparation, and without solid legal grounding, then it is absolutely essential that someone asks the hard questions. Congressman Aguilar is doing that work, and moments like this show just how necessary that oversight truly is. If this kind of accountability matters to you, make sure to stay engaged, stay informed, and never look away when power goes unchecked.